All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the ninth grade family course registration night. My name is Tal Sadiq. I'm the principal of the high school, and I'm here with some fabulous people who will all introduce themselves now. Nikki?
Hi, I'm Mickey Gramacki, assistant principal.
Hi there. Welcome. My name is Sam Camera. I am also an assistant principal.
And I am Ella Stalker. I am the librarian at the high school.
And these are some folks who will all be getting to know over the next 4 years. But right now, we're going to talk to you about the registration process so we can get your students all ready to enter the high school. So we're going to have a slideshow and go through all the slides, and at the end, we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks for joining us this evening, taking time out of your busy schedule.
Okay, I'm going to just get the slideshow up here, and then I'll take us off the screen so everyone can read this properly.
So again, good evening. So tonight we are going to talk about everything you need to know relative to your children registering for courses in ninth grade. So the purpose of this evening is to discuss with you the 4x4 block schedule and answer questions that you may have about that, how to access the videos that were made by the department heads explaining the ninth grade classes. We're going to talk about elective opportunities at Amherst High School, as well as the registration timeline. So the 4x4 block, for some of you, you already have children at the high school, so that you're pretty familiar with this. For others, this is brand new. And so for us as a school, we're actually in our second year of this block. First year as the 4x4, when we, last year, we did a modified block. But what we have decided is, the importance of students having fewer classes at one time. So the way this will work is your children will select 2 semesters worth of classes. So we call it 4x4 because there's 8 blocks to fill. And I think this will become clearer as we go through the presentation. So within the school day, we do run those 4 blocks. We start our school day at 9 o'clock. Our second block, B block, begins at 10:25. And then embedded in the C block is a 30-minute lunch. So based on the course that students have, we do this by departments. Different departments eat different lunches. And we operate on 45-day schedule quarters. And so every quarter we rotate that so that students have, the opportunity for different lunches. Some, throughout the year, they will probably have different lunches. Then we end the day with then our 4th block is our D block. And then we end the day by rotating each day of the week. Students go back to one of their 4 classes. And that is what we consider our plus block. And I can discuss that in more detail as we go. So a sample ninth grade schedule. For semester 1, a student might have English, science, math, and then for 45 days, the student would have their required health class, and then they would get an elective that would offset that 45-day elective, and then the same type of configuration for semester 2. Because we have 8 blocks, most students will have 5 core academics, so that's the math, social studies, science, English, and world language. And then that leaves the opportunity for multiple electives. So one of the benefits of this 4x4 block is that students get to take many electives and try different courses in engineering, the arts, computer science. And so far, the feedback on that has been excellent. And so a lot of questions come up about the 4x4 schedule. And again, because many people in our, this is only our second year, several about this schedule. So one will be, how are the electives offered? And I just spoke to that. Most electives are going to be 45 days, 60-hour courses, and it allows for students to really sample and try lots of different courses. For many, many years prior to the block, Amherst High School used to have directed studies embedded in the schedule. We no longer have those. So students will be in classes for the 4 blocks. However, as I mentioned earlier, we have this class at the end of the day called the plus block. And what we found is that sometimes students who are absent and they need to make up work, or students who need extra help with their teachers, they're actually going to go back to the plus block for the courses that they already have. So instead of having a study hall with a teacher who might not be their own, instead they have this mini 40-minute period at the end of the day, which is like a study hall, and yet it will be with their actual teachers. Other questions that have come up for students with IEPs, the way we do academic skills for most ninth graders is we actually offer it as a block during the day. It's so far been successful in helping students transition to the high school. It's time in the day for them to receive the related services, and it's also time for them to connect with a special education teacher who in many cases will be their liaison, and to get extra help and support with their high school classes. So most courses in the high school run 90 days, one semester. However, it should be noted that there are some classes that are year long, so they are double blocked. Some of those include Algebra 1, topics in mathematics, and AP BC calculus. There's some courses that run 3/4 of the year, such as our AB calculus course and our AP statistics. So that's the whole first semester, and then it's another quarter in the second semester, leaving yet another quarter for an elective. For families and students that might be concerned about continuity, it's certainly an option for students to request to double up in different areas, such as math and world language. So students will be permitted to request those additional blocks, and based on our enrollments, we'll do our best to accommodate those requests. So here's an example. I had mentioned that, for example, Algebra 1 is such a foundational course in mathematics that students coming into ninth grade who are scheduled for Algebra 1, that's a double block. So we wanted families to see what that would look like. So they would have the math all year, then they would have their other core academics, and it still leaves time for multiple elective opportunities. For students on IEPs who have academic skills, here's another example where the academic skills as 2-semester courses or year long still allows for ample elective choices. So we thought that even though your children are coming into ninth grade, it's still worth noting some of the opportunities that we offer here at Amherst High School that we're really proud of, and really helps to engage the students and give them a well-rounded experience. We have many students who choose an alternative learning program as part of their program, sometimes in 9th, more frequently in 11th and 12th grade, but students are permitted to do community service for high school credit. Some students, especially older students, choose to be teaching assistants, and they contract with a teacher to do that. And many students who have interests that they want to explore more deeply can receive credit for independent studies. Additionally, every student in the high school is placed into an advisory. Those advisories meet once a week on Wednesdays, and there's many different activities that are led by students as well as faculty during advisory time. In addition, it's a great reminder that we have 45 sports teams, we have 40 clubs, and then we have our ensembles and, in our performing arts and music department. So there's many opportunities for students to be involved in the high school outside of just their 8 blocks. So the registration timeline, as you'll see, those events in March have already occurred. And here we are on the 3rd bullet. March 30th is our course registration night. And then on April 8th, so after tonight, hopefully you feel more comfortable helping your children choose courses. April 8th, course registration closes. And then from April 8th and April 11th, the counselors will help with students who weren't able to meet that deadline or really have issues or concerns that need to be addressed before they feel comfortable submitting their registration. And then we have a verification period. So between April 25th and April 29th, you will receive a list of which courses your children have elected for 9th grade. And it's a chance to make sure that there aren't errors or mistakes, or if we have new information from when they originally requested courses, you have an opportunity to change it. And then on April 28th, students are going to get an opportunity to come to the high school and visit the high school on what we call Step Up Day here at Amherst. And it's a really nice chance for 8th graders to experience a morning at the high school engaging with high school students. So yes, we are excited to welcome the class of 2026 to the high school. And at this time, Principal Sadiq and I will answer any questions that you might have, with the idea that now, after our presentation is really a nice opportunity to go in and look at the departmental videos, which Ms. Stocker has posted here on the StreamYard. So there's the link for you to independently explore the videos that each department made.
All right, thanks, Ms. Gramacki, for that. Now we're just going to wait to see if we have any questions from our families. Just put them in the chat, and then we'll do our best to answer any questions. And if you have a question, here we go. Who do we go to with questions? I think it will really depend on what your question is. A lot of questions can be answered by our guidance counselors, of course, tonight. If you have any specific questions, we have to do our best to answer them. I think it really depends on what your question is.
Yeah, and in many cases, our middle school counselors also, our middle school staff have a lot of experience with this. So in many cases, the middle school can also answer your questions.
And I was just going to add that in the slideshow with the videos from department heads that Ms. Gramacki just mentioned, there is also a link to a Google form that you can fill out with questions. And that Google form goes directly to those department heads, and they'll be able to answer those questions directly. And their email addresses are also right on those slides. So there's also a way to get in touch with them directly.
Thanks. Okay, how do we go about language placement? So if your child is taking language at the middle school and they do well in it, then they will go to the next level at the high school. There's also chances to do placement tests. Mostly the placement tests are done for students who are transferring into our district from another middle school or from another high school. Okay, how often are languages run for the full year? Concerned about loss of language skills, not practiced for a year and a half, for half a year. So there is an opportunity for some doubling up. Like there could possibly be a chance to take level 1 in the fall and level 2 of a language in the spring. It really depends on enrollment in the other class choices that your child is trying to get. We are trying to also come up with other ways to provide supplemental material for students to access in the in-between time of languages and math courses as well. Those are the two biggest questions we get about the potential gap of time in between. So definitely working hard to figure out more ways and more opportunities for students to stay current or up to date with their language or math class. Okay, we're curious to hear about the honors curriculum. How do we decide if our child should be in honors, and how many honors classes should a child take realistically? So some of the recommendations for honors classes at the high school will be made by the current teachers at the middle school. And then in some of our classes, like the English class, for example, and many of our language classes, you have the option once the class starts to decide if you want to do the extra honors work or stay with the college prep work. And then,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll also add that that's actually one of the benefits. So we know that there's, pluses and minuses to this block schedule. One of the benefits, though, is that in the past, students had 7 courses at a time. So if students wanted to take honors level in multiple curricular areas, they were balancing 7 different classes. In this schedule, most students will have 3 core academics in one semester and 2 in the other. So I actually think this schedule provides more opportunity for students to take more honors classes. If they're taking, let's say, 3 of their 5 classes as honors and they all end up in the same semester, those are things that we can try to balance in the summer. I'm one of the 12-month employees, so I'm here all summer working on schedules. And so we do go through each schedule by hand and really try to balance those if we can. So I would say that it's a little easier. Those of you who have had children that had the 7 blocks at one time, I actually think the feedback's been that students feel, because they don't have the classes all at the same time, that it's easier to take more of the honors classes if that's what they choose to do.
The placement test for heritage speakers. Yes, I believe there are placement tests that would determine what level would be the most appropriate one. We do, I'm fortunate to have a lot of folks who their first language isn't English, so we try to offer challenging courses for everybody. So there would be an option in the summer to take the placement test before we finalize the schedule. So I wonder if there isn't kids falling behind and doing more poorly in their math and language classes under this policy. So again, this is the first couple of years that we've done the block schedules. There's not a whole lot of data. I know with the plus block and the work that teachers are trying to do now to catch students up, it's something we'll continue to look into. So one of the challenges coming out of the pandemic, when we went from remote learning and things were so much different to now being in person, honestly, it's going to take us like maybe another year to really get some quality data to find out what kind of impact it's having. We do understand that there is a potential for students to have a significant amount of time between math classes and language classes. So that's why we're also working on, again, ways for students to stay up to speed with the math, not to lose too much of what they've gained. So yeah, signing up for the classes, I believe the link is in the chat and will also be provided. Excuse me. One of the things we wanted to do is to make sure that you got the information tonight from us, and then there'll be more information sent to you with different opportunities to start to register for classes, and the timeline will be sent out again. And middle school counselors will also be getting in touch with folks to answer questions and to help with registration. The honors recommendations generally do go to the high school. And if there is a place on the form, you can request any classes that you want, really, and then there's a verification time. Like there are some classes that have prerequisites, and if questions like that come up, once we review the schedules, the guidance counselors or admin from the high school will get in touch with you to verify a few things and clarify any questions that we have. But a lot of the recommendations will come from the middle school to the high school as well.
I just wanted to mention too, the way this evening is designed was for us to kind of introduce you to like how many courses each student's taking. I do think if you watch the departmental videos, and then there's a place where you can actually pose questions about specific courses. I'm available. Sam Camera, who does the scheduling, is also available. You should feel really free to reach out to us directly. But I think once you watch those videos, it's going to answer a lot of the questions that are coming up here.
So doubling up in math and language in the same year. Again, there's no guarantee, but you can request it. And again, we'll try to do our best to honor those requests. There's a lot of different variables with creating new master schedule every year because it's based on requests. So it's not only going to be the request of your child, but also the number of sections that we'll be able to offer. So it's hard to say definitively right now if that can happen or not, but we'll try our best to honor those requests. Visited the high school at some point. That's a good question. Now that things have loosened up, and I'm hoping that the COVID numbers will continue to be low, we will think about ways for families to visit. Like right now, as Ms. Gramacki said earlier, we do have a step-up day planned for 8th graders. But if families want to also come and visit, we could definitely figure out a time. I mean, over the summer, there are other programs in summer school going on in the school, but it may be less challenging to have students come and take a tour over the summer than during the school year while school's in session. So I'd say right now we can try to figure something out for the summer. Algebra 1 honors and a math elective. Ms. Gramacki, you want to?
Yeah, so the Algebra 1 is year-long. The middle school, everything really depends on which math course your child is taking now in the middle school, or if you're coming from another school. We do math placement exams if your child is coming from a different school. And then we work really hard to allow students who are trying to get to calculus before senior year to double up and have multiple opportunities. We care very much about not tracking students in math. We want to have multiple pathways for them to reach calculus and beyond. So while I can't specifically answer the Algebra 1 and math elective, that's something we could take offline and look at your child's individual situation.
Sometimes there's a little lag. Oh, there we go. Okay. Have outcomes on AP exams changed since the change to the 404 block? So last year, we were in a different version of the 4x4 block and students took AP exams. So this will be the first year that we've been in this version of the block schedule that will have AP exams. So honestly, we'll have to wait to see those results and then compare them to past years to be able to answer that. But this is one of the data points we'll be looking at in terms of how much impact we think the block schedule, if any, has had on students' learning.
Also, in our high school, some of the AP courses, if they're double blocked, they're going to have more instructional time than they had in the 7 drop 1 schedule. Additionally, at Amherst High School, students can take AP courses and they are not required to take the AP test. That's different in different high schools, but we do not require students to take the AP test. They're encouraged to, they're prepared to take it, but they are not required to. So we actually have a lot of courses where students don't actually take the test. And there's been, there's studies, you can go online, you can Google different schedules. And what they find is that the real predictor of academic success is not necessarily the schedule. The 4x4 became very popular in the late 90s. And then it's really resurfacing again based on the, after the pandemic, or, we're still in the pandemic. But there's nothing that suggests that 4x4 block schedules have a detrimental impact on students, even as they look at those gaps. They actually find a lot of the benefits from students having multiple opportunities to study, to have different electives in their schedule, as well as doing better on the fewer courses that they have at a time.
All right, thanks for that. So the question is, if a student takes an honors level class and figures it's too hard, then what does it look like? So part of the answer to that question is going to depend. Like in English class, for example, when honors is embedded within the college prep class, there's not really a big detriment to that. They can just decide that the honors work is a little too much to do, and they would just, on their transcript, it would just be reflected as a college prep class instead of an honors. Some other classes, it may take a little more schedule change. We do have an add drop time that we try to make these sorts of change because chances are it would mean a major change to their schedule, because not every block has, like if they have B period honors algebra, there may not be a B period college prep algebra. So it may have to go to another period, which means other classes would need to be changed. So a lot of it would depend on the class and the timing of it. You're muted, Ella.
Can't get through a meeting without somebody being accidentally muted. I just want to point out that somebody in the chat just mentioned that the departmental video link is not working for them. So I am double checking that. It should be working. I did check it beforehand and it was working. But if anyone else is having some success, if they would let us know in the chat, that would be very helpful. So link is working for somebody else. So Christina, if it's still not working for you, feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll find you like a PDF version we can send you.
Thanks. Right. Let's see if a few more questions pop up. So again, if more questions come up that you think of after this is over, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And as Ms. Gramacki mentioned, the middle school is very knowledgeable of all of our procedures as well. So you can start with them or you can reach out to us. And we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have.
And Ella, would you mind putting my email as well as Ms. Cameron's email in the chat so that, again, if tonight people didn't feel like they got the answers, they could write to me or Ms. Cameron directly and we can respond?
All right, so we'll hang out for a few more minutes and see if there's any more questions. Yeah, thank everybody for joining us. I know everybody's schedules are really busy and spring sports are just starting, so people's dinners are sometimes a little bit later. Oh, here we go. Any guidance on kids switching from French in middle school to Spanish as a freshman? It's generally not a problem. Yeah, that's no problem. Students can start a language brand new in the high school, or if they've taken a couple of years of it at the middle school, then they can start at a higher level at the high school. It's really up to you and what you feel is best for you and your child. It's definitely no problem to start, even if they've done 2 years of French and then wanted to start Spanish brand new with Spanish 1 instead of French 2 at the high school, that they could do that. And then most state schools only require 2 years of a language. Some of the other private schools require 3, sometimes 4 years. So depending on, if you do 2 years of Spanish at the high school and then in 11th grade, your child decides they want to try French, they could do that as well. It will all depend on kind of where they're at the time.
Yeah, I don't want to ignore this question about the difference between geometry honors and algebra honors. So first of all, we have Algebra 1, which is a year-long course. And we find that when students come to the high school and they haven't yet had algebra, because passing the math MCAS is a graduation requirement, we double block the algebra so that students really have a strong foundation and plenty of time to study algebra. So it's Algebra 1. And then we have a geometry honors course, and many students who completed algebra in the 8th grade will come into 9th grade and take the geometry college prep or geometry honors course. So I'm not sure how to make the distinction because they're two different content areas, obviously algebra and geometry. So I would encourage you to watch Miss Moody's video. Miss Moody's the department head for mathematics here at the high school. And if you continue to have questions about the math, I encourage you to reach out to her directly, or you're welcome to email me and I will work to make sure you get a personalized response.
Correctly, kids take 5 core academics class year. Can students take 2 core classes in the fall and 3 in the spring? So it really depends on the number of sections that we offer. So math, English, science, social studies, and world language are the 5 core academics we're speaking of. And again, it will just depend on the number of sections that we offer of each of those classes. And it's all based on enrollment. So it's hard to say. We try to have it balanced so it's 3 and 2, but it's not necessarily always 3 in the fall and 2 in the spring. We're trying to balance the schedules. It's definitely try to get the 3 and 2. Again, sometimes it works out 3 in the spring, 3 in the fall, or 3 in the spring and 2 in the fall, or vice versa. All right. Let's see. So there'll be information coming out about the spring musical Hair. We're trying to allow more audience members this year than we have in the past. So there'll be an opportunity, especially if some of you, I'm sure, may have students, children already at the high school, maybe in the performing arts program. So definitely a chance to come out. I think opening night is next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's always an exciting time of the year. All right. I think Ella can put the links back in the chat for everybody. I know with other questions, I think they were in at one point with other questions, probably near the beginning of the stream.
They're actually in the description box right below this video, Rebecca. So if you just want to take a look right below where the video is, you should see a link to both the slideshow with the videos in it, and then also a link to course registration directly.
There was another question. Until after parent-teacher conferences. No, I would say, especially because a lot of the choices are going to be the electives. It's a nice opportunity for students to select those. The reality is if you make course selections and then something drastically changes, up until the summer, we can make a course change, right? So while we don't want to do that for everyone, because it would certainly throw off our master's schedule, if something compelling comes up in a conference and you need to make a change, we absolutely can change that. And then there's also the course verification process that allows you to see what students have put in. And also for things like English, those choices are made once school begins because students are in the same classroom. And so that's not a decision that has to be made right now. Students can make that choice in the fall.
Right. I hope everyone's gotten all their questions answered, at least for now. And please reach out with other questions. I'm not sure how long this was scheduled for, but I can hang out for a few more minutes and see if more questions come to mind. All right. Well, I think here we go. Oh, thank you. I'm glad it was helpful. Thank you for joining us again. I know it seems like doing these evening things, it's convenient for some, but at the end of a long day, sometimes, it can be hard to even make this happen. I'm glad that everyone who's here with us was able to join us. Hopefully it was informative. And this is the beginning. We'll be getting to know each other a lot better over the next 4 years. And we'll be sending out more information about upcoming opportunities or ways that you can learn more about the high school, and look forward to welcoming your students to us in the fall. Here we go. All right.
Actually, and many people are leaving, which is fine, but there is a question about the sample schedule. So maybe you tuned in late, but that is on. Ella, will our PowerPoint be available so that they can go back and look at the example schedules? And again, I'm glad someone made that note. On our example schedule, we put 3 in the fall and 2 in the spring. It could very easily be the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll just note that I can add that PowerPoint. I'll add it to the description box. It's not in there now, but right after we get off this call, I'll be able to add that in there. And we can also add a link to it within that slideshow. So it'll be in 2 different places for folks to go back and look at that PowerPoint again.
Thanks, Ella. So time for socializing and recess. We don't have an official recess at the school. We've thought about trying to figure out a way to fit recess in. I think it's important for students to move. A lot of the socializing does happen during the lunch blocks, and students do get a chance to connect during the passing period. It's 5 minutes in between class. We encourage students to walk and talk so they're not going to be late to their next classes. But the socializing, most of it does happen during the lunch time, and also during the plus block at the end of the day. If students, because it does rotate, they don't necessarily get to see students who they don't have class with. Like on Mondays right now, A period is the plus block at the end of the day. Tuesdays is B period. Wednesdays is advisory. Thursdays is C, and on Friday is D period. And during those times, they can get a head start on their work, or they can socialize a little bit with students. But yeah, it mainly happens during lunch, right in the beginning and at end of school as well. All right. I can't see how many people are still with us. But are there any last questions? I'd like to try to take them now. If not, we can all get on with the rest of our nights. All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully you got a lot of good information from tonight. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and take care.